When it comes to the eating hall,
Janet? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, thanks.
that should be right here.
Procedural notes.
I can read them all by name. Or we can just take
Wait,
one.
one second.
Yeah, I think the only one we should do on the check credit card.
Yeah.
That's what. Right there, so it's already hard out for guests. Right? We'll open the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will start with the annual meeting.
Mark his oath of office so he can vote.
And Jack.
So we already swore in Jackie, we already swore in the mayor, Mark, who was just reelected recently, just needs to be sworn in. Stay where you are while I don't move, I will stand up. Please repeat after me. I, Mark Galvin,
I, Mark Galvin,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution
that
of New York,
Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of village trustee
and that I faithfully discharge the duties of village trustee
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Okay, welcome back.
So John,
Go on.
the stand you have there.
Thank you.
And thank you for serving. Okay, so now we'll move on to the annual meeting. Okay, we'll start out with adoption of rules of order, organizational resolutions. Do I hear a motion to adopt? Nathan,
I make the motion.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, and then under appointments. Deputy Mayor will be Jackie Kelly. Mayor Church. April of 2026. I won't read all of them after this because they're all the same. Village clerk. Deputy one year. Village treasurer, Mindy Goodell. For Deputy Treasurer and Clerk, Tracy Hathaway. DPW Superintendent, Brad Hathaway. Village Attorney, Janet Bliss. Village Associate Judge. Proposed is Sean Donovan. The annual compensation of $2,000. Administrative Committee is Katie Brennan and Mark Galvin. Joint Youth Commission, Katie Brennan and Andrew Quinn. Village Historian is Karen Fountain, with an annual compensation of $1,000. Village Audit Committee is the Board of Trustees. Government Liaisons, Art Devlin and Jackie Kelly. Joint Village and Town Community Development Board, Art Devlin and Jackie Kelly. Relief Committee, Jackie Kelly. Community Development is Katie Brennan and Andrew Quinn. And Code Review and Vacation Rentals is Jackie Kelly. And Lake Placid Business Association Liaison, Mark Galvin. We can take those all at once. Have a motion to accept the slate of officers and appointments above.
I make a motion that we accept the slate of officers as mentioned.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Liaison appointments. Trustee Galvin and Trustee Brennan, Department of Public Works and Electric Department. Trustee Kelly, Trustee Quinn, Police and Fire Department. It's always, any trustee is very welcome to speak to any department that it's necessary. Liaisons are just in help or in place to streamline the village process. Said trustee may receive an annual salary or service as trustee of Lake Placid and following amounts. If so desired, mayor $14,700, deputy mayor $11,300, and trustee $8,500. The same is fixed for the official year beginning April 7th, start of the year thereafter, until such time as that schedule of annual salaries is changed by the village board. They will be paid monthly installments of the fulfilling the duties of its trustee. Monthly installments are to be incorporated in the household payment system. Do I have a motion to accept?
Make the motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then the next are all the procedural items, 1 through 7, we've all seen them. Take those all at once if you would like, or individually. Do I have a motion to accept the procedural items?
I make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Village policy, if you want to go with all of them at once. Or individually. A motion to accept the village policy.
I'll make the motion to accept the village policies.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Did you want to adopt the policy any change?
Yeah. That's Checking about it, yeah. Yes, okay. So the other policy that has changed is our credit card policy. At this point, I believe it is deputy treasurer clerk that is,
So actually, the treasurer asked for one more adjustment.
okay,
So we were asking for 4 additional credit cards. One for the DPW superintendent, one for the police chief, one for the deputy clerk, deputy treasurer, and one for the head fire driver. This makes the accounting easier when
You know
she
where it came from.
immediately knows which card goes to which department. And Mindy asked for a credit limit of $5,000 for each of those 4 cards. The existing cards will remain at 10,000.
as you know, before, and then if someone DPW had to come and get someone's card, so it isn't a much better solution. Do I have a motion?
I make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good. And media and bank designation. The board designates the Lake Placid News and the Adirondack Enterprise, as the official newspapers of the village of Lake Placid. And designate radio station 93.3 Lake FM as the radio station of the village of Lake Placid for a period of 1 year. Accept.
I'll make the motion to accept.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good. The board resolves to determine National Bank Trust, like Champlain Bank, Adirondack Bank, Community Bank, and NICLAS depositories for the funds of the Placid Village for the period of 1 year. So I have a motion to accept.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There being no further business before the board, the organization meeting made by the trustees. To bring it to a close, do I have a motion?
Make a motion, we adjourn the meeting, organizational meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we will open the regular board meeting and start with the regular board meeting minutes from March 17th. I have the motion to accept.
Motion. Separate minutes from March 17th.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Neither? Item B is the beach house lease agreement with Essex County for early voting. Accept or approve.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item C is parking enforcement officer wage. Want to give us the details?
I'll make a motion. Oh,
Just put that in the record.
This comes at the request of Police Chief Dobson. He would like to ask that Mike Wheeler's salary is increased by 6% effective immediately. Nicholas McCabe, who is our newest officer, who's on probation, to be raised to 2105, the same as Mike Wheeler's, as of June 2nd, when he completes his 6-month probation. And David Lally, who's our part-time officer, to be raised to $22 effective immediately.
Any questions?
Make a motion to accept.
I'll
Second.
send it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, David.
Okay.
Item D, a wastewater treatment training seminar, April 9th, 2025, Pasadena, New York. Nick, who we sending?
Brad Hathaway, Tracy Lohart, Larry Wood. Also Jason Endries, Carol Macy, and Stephen Lahart.
I made a motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion.
Item E, laboratory training, July 9th, by Plattsburgh.
Dennis Lawrence and Adam Marshall.
Okay, motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Item F. New York Chief Annual Training Conference, July 13th to the 16th in Monticello, New York.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Item G, we work with Steel Iron Man Vesio and Race Course installation. Then. Approve the installation of it.
2-1.
Yeah, do each one individually?
Yeah. We always have done it together because Peter Davis sends it as one. Now, we're not approving the events, but we're approving him to install the course.
It's one course, 2%.
I believe so. I just know we've always done it.
Yes. You okay with that, Shannon? Motion to approve?
I made the motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And item H, the Lake Placid Marathon on June 8th, 2025.
I make the motion to accept.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And item I is the Lake Placid Classic, it's October 11th, 2025.
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And item J, Lake Placid Volunteer Fire Department. Elected and appointed officers, would you like to read those again?
Sure. This year's officers are Chief Mike St. Louis, First Assistant Chief Jen Marshall, Second Assistant Chief Brian Scales. First Captain is Barry Ballinger, Second Captain is Ryan St. Louis, Third Captain is Gavin Martin, and fourth is Tyrone Mullen.
I have a motion to approve the slate of officers as given. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anything else to come to?
Nope, that is all.
Anything under? Sorry, warrant application number 17, motion to approve?
Make the motion to approve the affidavit.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Jackie, for reviewing those.
Welcome.
Anything to come under new business? I'm gonna bring up any new business. Okay, so under new business, the following members were terminated by the Lake Point Volunteer Fire Department. Aaron Barney, official letter mailed December 23rd, 2024. Josh Pelkey, official letter March 10th, 2024. All we need to do is acknowledge that. So I don't believe there's any vote or anything, but just you could put that in the records.
Excellent.
Nothing else on the new business? Or anything under old business? Nothing under mayor items? Any commissioner reports tonight?
Right, we do have an LPBA mixer, 5:30 at Cambria. We'd like to join.
Okay, and
Greg, you can grab a chair.
okay, and our next topic is public comment or press question. Have a nice audience tonight. Who'd like to go first?
My name's Leslie Shannon. My boyfriend is Kenny Bishop. He's the owner of Captain Marty's Boat Rental. He would be speaking on his own behalf, but he's even worse at public speaking than I am. So I'm sure everybody's gotten the email, or I hope everybody would have gotten the email concerning our lack of dock space at Paradox Bay Landing. We are respectfully asking the board to seriously review our request concerning using the village launch in a very minimal way to allow us to continue our business and allowing us to assist the community. I'm not gonna go over the whole email. I'm assuming everybody's had a chance to take a look at it, and if they have any questions, I'm here. Okay, I do know of a number of people that are offering to try and help us. We have been to the Whiteface Club, the Lake Placid Lodge, the Whiteface Lodge. Nobody has dock space. We've talked to private owners. We're really down to one of two options. I don't want to create any more chaos at the village launches than that's already there. We have one boat launch utilizing the state launch. They're pretty much a constant. If we had dedicated dock space, we would not be creating more chaos at the launches. We also really want to help those people that are being affected by the sale of Paradox Bay. Whether we're out in the lake or not, whether you approve this or not, we still plan on helping people get back and forth to their camps without having to keep their dock or their boat at the dock at Paradox Bay. Like I said, if you have any questions or if anybody else has any questions for what we'd like to accomplish,
You mentioned two options. First option, I'm assuming, is the village boat launch.
trailering and launching at the village or the state launch.
When you
Yes,
say trailering launch, okay, because
We would have-
we run into is that we're not allowed to have,
commercial.
right,
Well, then I think we would have to eliminate every commercial business that goes out of that launch.
we do our best to do that. There isn't supposed to be any commercial people.
Well,
doing
in the
it.
original letter that Gary had sent down on March 30th, and I believe he handed to, I'm not sure who he handed it to. We had asked for, as part of this, to change the regulations, change the law for 2 years to temporarily allow commercial access to the launch, meaning us specifically, because other commercial businesses are using it also anyway, such as G&S Plumbing. A lot of the contractors are going in and out of there. So we asked for only a temporary change in that rule, simply because if it doesn't work for the community, we don't want the village to be locked in. We want it to revert in 2 years back to, you can't do it. If it works for the village and the community for us being there or having a business like us down there, then great, make it permanent. But right now, we're just, as in the first letter, we're asking for that change in the regulations.
So you're
And
not
I don't know
looking
what
for
the,
any dock space, you're just looking to put boats in and out, is that what you're saying?
no, the letter that I had sent today, or this morning, the email I had sent today. We keep the current dock in place, continuing to keep it open to the public. We would keep Captain Marty's footprint at the launch minimal to not disrupt other users of the public launch or nearby properties. Grassy side of the property, install a second floating dock. I believe that there originally was a dock at that location. This dock would accommodate up to 6 of our boats to be used as rentals and 1 or 2 empty spaces to allow people utilizing the launch space to unload or load personal items, lessening the time other boat owners spend at the launch dock. We would also improve and maintain the visual qualities of the village launch property. Now, as we've been doing business at Paradox Bay Marina or Landing, none of our customers park at the landing parking lot. We donate money to the Lake Placid Baptist Church to park there. So it's a win-win for Lake Placid Baptist Church and for us and the owners at Lake Placid or Paradox Bay Landing because we're not using their private spots.
Okay, so you're still back to running a business on village property.
Which is why we're asking for the temporary regulation change, the temporary law to be changed.
It's one thing for a commercial person putting your boat in and out. That's why I asked you about dock space. It's another thing for you to be on our business, on our property with slips running a business. That's prohibited.
Which is why I'm asking for the law to be changed for 2 years. And I know that's an act of God.
Well, and it's just the village law. I mean, that's a New York State one. I mean, let's say we did pursue that. Estimate on how long that would take was.
The New York State Constitution prohibits private business on public property. To change the New York State Constitution would be greater than an act of God,
Is there any exemptions to that?
not that I'm aware of.
You mentioned you have two options. What's the second one?
Trailering and launching at the launches. We would set up customers off the property and just push them into the water. That's the worst option.
Right.
I don't see us being able to maintain a viable presence on Lake Placid, especially in the middle of July 4th weekend. We have looked at mooring and anchoring offshore. That's prohibited by New York state law. We have gone to private property owners. They're already full. So we're kind of at a crossroads as to where we can go and whether we can still be in business in Lake Placid. We do an awful lot for the community. If you'd read the first letter, you would realize that not only are we dealing with tourists, we also deal with locals.
I've had a lot of people sticking up for you saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they've copied me to some of their emails and it's brought both of us to tears. You know, the outpouring of support that we've had. We have contractors that don't have access to their own boats. They can't get out to the lake. I have heard, but I'm not positive, that GNS Plumbing is going off the lake because they can't afford the dock rent. Some of their employees on the side can go out there if they have access to our boats, which we offer for free. There's no charge for a contractor to borrow our boat for a day. One of the locals pays by way of fudge and homemade goodies. She doesn't have the money. This is just one of the things that we do. I know that there's laws all about this. I'm not a lawyer, obviously. I don't know all the laws. I am asking for a viable solution for the village to help us find at this point.
Obviously, of the two, we can't allow you to run a business off the village property.
But I can launch a boat off it personally.
If personally, yes. And if we were, we would be, we could at least look into changing the, whether people could, professional person could launch a boat there. But I suppose that would be, the only way that would even work is if you were able to, if people were able to secure parking on the Baptist church as well. 'Cause
Well,
there's
we've
not-
been doing that for 4 years.
Right, but I mean, even the contractors, that might be a viable solution, because the minute you start allowing people to park there, as you know, there's not enough
Well-
for 3 people in trade.
One of the things we're also offering, if we were on there, for those who launch their own boats, but who do not have real estate on the lake or have previously rented dock space at Paradox Landing, we're offering valet/parking services between the launch and our property with either one of us driving their vehicle and trailer or offering just a ride back and forth. This frees up the parking and trailering issues associated with the small launch site. We already have boat owners that are not comfortable backing up trailers or launching their boats on the road, and we've been doing that for people for several years already. So we're trying to work with the village, we're trying to work with the community. We've seen people try and back up a boat at the village launch, and it's painful watching them.
Yeah.
Because half an hour later, they finally get it in far enough where they can get it into the water. And then it takes another half hour for them to load their personal things. If we had a dock down there, they could utilize the dock to load and unload their personal items, freeing up the village launch. I know we're going back to the laws and worse than an act of God. I'm just trying to find viable solutions.
I think we could look into the dock, second dock, and not as far as one that goes out. It has a spot for 7 boat, like we then become a marina, and then that would be another active dock, get a marina there. But maybe as far as the second dock, where these people could bring a boat to the side, and look into that. We could also look into the possibility of, as long as people secure the parking elsewhere and trailering, that possibly we could allow people to commercially use that.
That would be
But that's-
definitely a step in the right direction. I mean, anything at this point is a step in the right direction, not just for us, but everybody else involved that wants to get on the lake, you know?
Yeah, it sounds like, because I wasn't sure how we were even gonna think about. Sue Kim was here, could probably speak to that. How many people have landlocked camps that now don't have, you have a number?
The total number of people that own them or are local people?
People that have landlocked camps that depend on boat slips to get
I
there.
didn't count all of those, but I know that there are like 20 local people that own camps that are boat access. There are 30 that aren't. They were.
I'm thinking that might be a solution if the Baptist church would rent space. How much space do they have there, you know?
They have parking. Other than Sunday morning during church.
So you'd be
Uh,
talking about. you know,
Yeah, we park way in the back. Our customers park way in the back. They probably have 15, 20 spots pushed in if they're also using the front.
Yeah,
Oh,
we also go in the front too.
Yeah, but Sunday mornings, we have to leave access,
Sure.
you know, to parishioners.
Sure. Wish I could offer you more, but at least that's something we can look into for you.
Okay, that's.
And you're a good public speaker, by the way.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
Okay.
One other question along those lines. Is it possible that the village and town, through the joint land use code, could alter that to allow,
Ultra what?
alter the code to allow private people to put more boat slips on their docks?
We increase the density, basically.
So if I could, currently, that Paradox Bay is in South Lake Residential. And marinas are not an allowable use in South Lake Residential, but the marina that is there is grandfathered. We're currently working on that. That too is an act of Congress where, you know, changing land use code needs to go to the county and then the state, but we are looking at that. I don't know if it be something that could happen as quickly as maybe Sue and the shore owners want it to happen.
Jackie, the definition of a marina is when you dock anyone's boat besides your own, is that correct?
That's correct. And I think Janet, is there a limit? It might be 3 or 4, 3 or more slips.
I think it's just one if you allow somebody else to dock their boat at. Oh, yeah, I think it's very narrow and most property that had, if not all, with the exception of properties along Saranac Avenue, all the other properties that have frontage on the lake that are accessible by vehicle are zoned residential. The only properties that are not zoned residential that have road access to the lake, I believe, are the properties along Saranac Avenue, for example, from, you know, the Baptist church out, and those are commercial properties and or zoned commercial. Unfortunately, I'm not sure the water along those properties is deep enough.
It's not great in there.
No.
Much past where Delaney's house is.
So it would take rezoning any lands. I think there's been an inventory done and most of those properties that have frontage on the lake, that have street access are all residential at this point.
So residential properties are limited to how many slips?
I'd have to look at the code, Sue. I mean, it's whatever the definition of marina is. It's not. The number of slips isn't exactly in the code, but the length of a dock is in the code. The number of slips, I'm not sure. However, as you know, the APA also has some jurisdiction over boathouses, docks, as does the DEC and sometimes the Army Corps of Engineers.
Seems that would ultimately be the only other option. Than paying exorbitant.
Arthur, how about? With the village and the town, why don't they buy the property?
How?
It's eminent domain.
If we go eminent domain, which we have tried before, and it's a very lengthy process.
Yeah, that's good. That's a delay, right?
The other problem with that is you have to have an appraisal done of the property and you have to pay that amount of money. And that property has now been valued at $6.8 million.
6.8 is what the value is on that?
That's
They
what
paid for it.
So they're paying for it. So that's what we would have to pay. And we did that.
No, you're saying you have to pay what the value is?
Pay the value of the property.
So when did that change?
When did what change?
Did that,
We have to-
caveat? Because
That's been as far as long as I've ever known.
I can tell you during the 80 Olympics, the state took a bunch of our property, 300-400 acres. Eminent domain, yeah. We didn't have an option to. They told us what they were gonna pay for, period. And I know my uncle's the state Supreme
No.
Court judge, and he wouldn't have let anybody screw us. So I'm questioning what.
Can you speak to that, how long it's been?
No, it's always been, as far as I know, a requirement that if the government, any governmental body is going to take somebody's property for a public purpose, that the person whose property is being taken is entitled to receive for that property the fair market value of the property. The eminent domain proceeding allows the governmental body to take the property, and subsequent to the taking, there's a separate procedure to come up with the value. Like anything, the state may have one idea of value, the property owner has the right to have his or her own appraisal done and fight it out. But it is true that eminent domain is a way for a municipality to take property fairly quickly for a public purpose, but at the end of the day, they have to pay for that property.
I understand that, but you also understand if the village and town, if they got together, what have you, it's a delaying action. Couldn't you be considered a delaying action? I mean, nothing turns over fast in the government. So, that you could be 2-3 years, we could get 2 or 3 more years to maybe come up with another option. It's an option.
Well, people chip in.
The other thing I wanted to just throw out is that want to know if anybody knows anything about moorings. Are they allowed in the lake?
Sounds like Sue, you looked into that.
I didn't look into moorings, no.
What?
I think,
Yeah, it's not legal
It's not legal.
The Shoreowners Association petitioned New York State, I believe in the early 2000s. There's only a very small area in the West Lake at the other end that it's allowed.
really,
If
Gotta have
the
property
properties
next
have
to them.
riparian rights, then they have the right to moor.
I believe you have 100 feet off your shoreline, is that correct?
No,
No,
No.
every property, the riparian rights is a part of the deed of the property.
but the
I know in
riparian,
Narrow Lake, we had them on Grace's property, and my dad always used to tell me, don't ever let that go.
the riparian rights are rights of others to travel on the water. Not, a riparian right is not the right to sink something down and attach it to the bottom of the lake. So that's a mooring.
Anybody else?
If no one else is gonna speak, I just, you know, I get this feeling, that this community, our community being taken over by people with a lot of wealth. And and there, a lot of those people are my friends. They're elephants, but they're my friends. And I just, my children and my grandchildren, they're never gonna be able to use the lake again. Pretty soon they won't be able to use Mirror Lake. It's a lousy direction we're going in. And I hope that you people that represent us in local government work real hard, protect us. You know, I know you all have businesses and you all enrich yourself in your business, but you also have a responsibility or get the hell off the board.
You guys are making it sound real easy, but okay, let's say we can put in 40 votes. Who do I give them to? Do I let a business run it? Do I let the people that own private camps have them that live in the village? Do I make them live in the village? What's your answer there?
Yeah,
There isn't gonna be a lot of votes, so it's gonna be able to.
Yeah. I'm looking for positive, not negative.
You're, okay.
Well,
We all-
you can have, do a lottery for Christ's sake. I mean, at least it's
So
an
now,
option.
so I'm just help me out. So let's say we can do that. Do we only allow the village people? Since it's village land, do we allow it to the town? Do we allow businesses involved? I mean, it's not that easy. We'll do our best.
Yeah, I'm saying it's not easy. We wouldn't be here if it was easy.
I think at this point, everybody that's sitting here is just really looking for a solution for what's going on, and we're asking for help.
It sounds like, you know, I can't make any promises. We will need to work on this, but it sounds like your solution is the best one so far. If we can do anything in the short term, which would be to possibly change our village boat launch so that it isn't, it would allow a commercial launch, but it would have to be maybe with the caveat that they rent space for the Baptist church so that they get their trailer. I'm just saying, I can't promise it, but that sounds like the best avenue that we have to go for. And at least it would afford us, time to think.
And so one of the other things that I mentioned, that I've written down, and I think I mentioned it, that, offering valet parking services between the launch and our property.
When you say your property,
So we have property on Dandelion Way. We live on 20 acres on Dandelion Way in North Elba, off by the fire department.
yes,
Okay,
it's a long ways, okay.
well, it's 5 minutes to the launch for me, driving a trailer with a boat on it. So if people launch their boat, and we're doing this anyway for people that are afraid to drive or back up a trailer or launch their own boat. People drop off their boats in their or drop off their boats, they have an empty trailer. Instead of parking their vehicle and their trailer at the village launch for the day or forever how long, we bring it over to our property, park it. When they're ready to come back in and go wherever it is they're going after boating for the day, we'll bring the trailer back, get it in the water, help them get their boat on, and help them get out. People that are just with a car and don't have a boat and trailer, they park at the
Sounds
Baptist
like you
church.
might get out of the boat rental business and get into that later. It might be easier.
It might be easier, but then we would be missing out on the 40 years of people that we've been dealing with. Gary's had people that started coming when they were 3 and 4 years old with their parents. We're now renting to these people that were 3 or 4 years old. We're now renting to them and their children.
Something
You
I
know.
don't know how this worked out, but help me out here, you read. When Lucy's proposed a new renovation of the Holiday Harbor area.
That,
Well, that they were trying to put in condos and I think the idea was that people bought a condo there and wanted to boat slip, they would have it. And to my knowledge, that's what triggered people in the lake to realize, hey, our slips aren't guaranteed. I'm assuming that's why they went over to follow the boat slips that we're talking about. So if those people did buy that and they are going to move over there, does that not mean it won't be slips opening up?
No,
at the house?
so the people that are buying Paradox Bay Landing has had a slip at Paradox Bay for a number of years. He is concerned. All right, a little back history here. Back in late 2023, the rumors started flying that there was buyers buying Paradox Bay Landing. Turned out there was two parties, one party from Albany and the one party from Montecito, California that eventually got it. This has been going on in lawsuits up until January of this year. They all have boat slips here. Now, an email went out in March, mid-March, I believe roughly the 17th or 18th of March, to every shore owner, not necessarily at Paradox Bay, but every shore owner that was a member of the Shore Owners Association got this letter saying, hey, we're buying this boat launch. If you want guaranteed access for the next 10 years, you have to pay $138,000 upfront for 10 years. Then you still have to pay a maintenance fee, but we don't know what's going to happen in year 11, 12, or 13. Who knows what's going to happen? Or you can rent on an annual basis, or you can just get out. That was the extent of it.
Let me
So-
just clarify one thing on that. You have to be an existing tenant
Yes,
of Paradox Bay to do that. You can't, it's not just a short owner.
there's people that rent at the harbor that got the
Yes,
email.
it is, because I asked. I attempted to do that, and because I'm not a current tenant, I'm not eligible for that program you just.
So you're a tenant at the harbor?
No, I'm at Whiteface now.
You're not eligible for the $135,000.
Correct.
I just don't, then
Right.
I don't understand why other people that rent at the harbor but not at Paradox Bay got the email.
I don't know. Because
Yeah,
I inquired and I was told that waive was just for
and there was,
current renters.
and then there was also people that rent at Paradox Bay, whether they're camp owners or not, that never got the email. So it seems to me that there was a lot of picking and choosing who was getting this email. And I forgot where I was going with this.
Well, but that's a private organization. You know, Hillary.
Yeah.
I had one more thing. You said that you feel that slips will open up at.
I was just curious if
At
that's
the
the case.
harbor, the deal at the harbor, and this is direct from Chris Lucy's mouth, is, you have to pay $100,000 non-equity entrance fee. And then you are allowed to rent at their regular rate. And again, I called her personally, and that is how she explained it to me.
There will be spots opening up at Paradox Bay Landing because there's people out there that cannot afford to rent the space.
And the point I'm making is $100,000 entrance fee doesn't make it much more.
We had one woman call us, about a week ago. I'm not gonna say who it is. She has had her camp out on Lake Placid. In the West-
1950.
Out at the West Lake towards the end, since 1950. She inherited it through a trust. She called Gary, last week at some point, crying, how am I going to be able to get out to my camp? And that's when we came up with the idea, well, there's a lot of people like that in that situation. We're just gonna have to help them get it back and forth.
About ferry.
But there's a number of people we know have already left. They're already going to do so since Saranac Lake. We have one that went to, I don't know if it's Cohasset or Owasso, I was too mixed up. We're losing locals to go to Saranac Lake.
And we understand that you can't solve all those problems, but
Well, I think we've gotten some good ideas tonight. Georgia, did you? Either you stick with sitting or you got something else.
It seems to me that it's like, if I put a toll out on Averyville Road and you couldn't get to your house out there without paying a toll first, then village would have to do something, and that's public road. But what's happening over there is that for $138,000, and as far as I know, that didn't include covered slips, that was just outside.
That's.
And at that point, you there are a lot of people who couldn't afford that rent. And we've owned our place since 1894.
Isn't that how the Baptist church bought that
And
property
we
in the
won't
first
be
place?
able to use our place to sell it if we have to deal with that. And I'm not the only one. And there are a number of people who are in that zone. Somehow or another, that doesn't seem like it's realistic. And I think if we gather the town and village together, might be able to come up with some solution. Because it's a lot of money to go there to begin with. The taxes that come in from that lake are pretty substantial. I think there ought to be some consideration.
We've already lost one person with this, halfway through last year, this, one of the camp owners out there says, I give up. His camp is for sale, he cannot sell it, and he's at Kawas. Yeah, and his wife, or his mom was there this time.
Anybody else would like to speak to this? Given us some ideas, we can look into the possibility of people can find a place to not leave their trailers and look into possibility of opening up the village boat launch to commercial application as far as putting boats in and out. We can't have someone on a billion there, which could launch a boat. As far as increasing density, that's something that's going to take more time, but at least if we have this option to get us behind, so it's going to be looked into and or enacted. Don't see much more we can do, but if you come up with a better idea than that. At least it's a start, I can.
You know what? Right now, this is a glimmer of hope, allowing us to launch at Village Lunch. And any other contractor that's still trying to get onto the lake. We're not quite sure what some other local contractors that had dock space down at Paradox Bay, if they're gonna be allowed to stay either. So having them being able to launch their little barge or their little fishing boat thing. Would be huge, not just for us, but for everybody that works on the lake. You know, this is a step in the right direction.
So if a homeowner that's affected, or a camp owner that's affected, would a system like this work temporarily to help you get to your camp? I mean, is that a viable option?
Maybe.
You know, one thing you could do, fix up that damn lot that's there now that belongs to the village. You can only put one boat in there. There's a big piece of cement with a piece of iron hanging it out in the middle of it. It's been that way for all winter at least.
That's one more.
Years.
Huh?
That's, I mean, we can do that.
I don't care how many more cars. God damn it, make it nice. It's a village property.
Up until now, not many people used it or cared, but.
You know, not many people use it. Yeah, go up there in the Sunday
It's busy.
afternoon or
It's
something.
busy all the time.
Like you can drive down Victor Herbert.
It's really fun when you have 4 trailers parked right next to each other and you're backing in another trailer from the street sideways to get into that launch. So if we can eliminate a lot of these trailers, that would be huge. And we're offering the service to help do that.
Okay, like I say,
If we have access to the launch.
happy to look into that, 'cause at least it sounds like it's something to get us by until all options can be looked at.
Okay. That works for me.
May I add something here?
Sure.
There's something that Gary has done and continue to do if you approve this. And that is, if anybody breaks down on the lake, the boat stops for some reason mechanically. And it could be during the day or at night. Gary was the only one who came out there and pulled you in and saved you. Who the heck is going to do that if he's not active there anymore?
Thank you. Thank you very much for that input. Anybody else that's online that would like to speak up or add an opinion? Anybody else from the audience?
I was just wondering, $6.8 million. I know it's a lot of money, but I think the Lansings would up the rent just a little bit for all of us. And you're gonna get $350,000 a year. I don't know, but take 10, 15 years or whatever. You know, and,
The problem with that is they don't want to deal with that.
you know.
And John is rolling over his grave.
Yeah, John's rolling over in his grave.
But that's a conversation you'd have to have with.
With the landlords, not here in public laws.
And I don't know how far along the sale process, if they get to this point,
Closing out of the main first of the year.
not over, as that lady said.
Right.
You know, if the village and town can buy it, geez, and we're all chip in anyway, you know, with our rents,
They don't-
you know. I even take care of the place. I'm there 7 days a week.
I don't wanna throw cold water on this, but if you, I was doing math, trying to figure out how they came up to this $12,000 thing. And if you want a 15% return on $7 million, you gotta charge like $13,000 for a slip.
Yeah, and
So,
Yeah, so he doesn't care about anybody other than making a profit.
no, I'm saying the plan was to give the land, to raise the rent for the land things. You have to go to like $12,000 for them to get the same kind of cash as this $7 million.
That's where
yeah,
we're.
but he wants to get paid in 2 years with the rent that he's charging now, $7 million would be what will be paid off in 2 years, maybe 3. So it'll take us guys a little bit longer. We pay them just a little bit more in rent and maintenance or whatever.
I think it's probably past this point because anybody in Lansing's.
If you guys got together, it's when you tried.
Yeah.
This is Mary Rother. I'm Steve Rother's wife, also a camp owner. I just wanted to point out that the people on the West Lake and other properties that have only boat access to town enjoy coming in to have lunch and dinners and do activities in the town. But if we're going to be bound to be at our houses and only come in and out, then the businesses are going to also suffer. So, we've supported the town for years and years. Even groceries, it's like you just make one trip and you have to stay at your house because you have no other way to get in and out. So, just even for the locals, I'm concerned that, the economy is not going to be the same for them. So it's also a financial gain for the local businesses for us to have access to go in and out. So that's the only thing I wanted to say.
Okay, and thank you again for that comment. But as I say, there will be constraints of what we can and can't do legally, things that'll take us time and things that we can do in the immediate. We do know the urgency and we do realize what it means to a lot of people, but we'll do our best.
To answer your question, the definition of marina in the land use code is 2 or more slips that are not, or for boats or watercraft that are not registered to the property owner or a member of the state.
That means you could have 2 that aren't. And can you charge?
That's the definition.
Can you charge for those boats, Jackie? Did you hear that?
Yes.
No?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Can't hear you, Jackie.
You're muted.
For the 2 slips that the property owner has?
Yeah, you can charge because that's the definition of marina is more than 2 that are for boats that are not registered to the property owner or a member of his family.
Any waterfront facility which provides accommodation services for vessels by engaging in any of the following: the sale of marine products or services, the sale, lease, rental, or any other provision, storage space, wharf space, or mooring, which I don't think we do mooring, for 2 or more vessels.
So you can basically only have 1.
Yeah.
So in other words, you couldn't have 4 slips, keep 2 for yourself and 2 for the public. Okay.
You have 1. If a marina is allowed in your zoning district.
Which, right, currently it is not.
Right.
Is that the state or is that a local land use code?
That is the local,
That's the definition in the land use code of a marine.
So like I say, certain things will take time to look at and make a change. Trust me, unfortunately, everything in village or municipal takes
That moves.
20 times longer than one, because you're dealing with everybody's money is the problem. But it doesn't mean that we can't. The solution sounds like it finds we can not tie up the property. Vessels and what have you, that's a possibility, but.
It's a disaster down there in July.
And
Yeah, that's a state law, one, too.
it's two or more. That's how it wondered.
Anybody else?
That issue or other issues?
Any issue?
Okay, thank you. So I am David Lally, and I am a part-time parking enforcement officer since last June. I wanted to just,
You're speaking on your personal behalf, right?
yes, I am,
Okay.
I am.
You're David Lally.
Correct. The company that the village uses for the meters is a poster child for gross incompetence. And that is not an exaggeration. As a retired attorney, I can tell you, they've breached the contract since the day I started last June. They are that bad. The meters are down all the time. And when they're down, the village is losing during the summer about $15,000 a week. A week. 60,000 a month. The numbers are there. We can look at them. And we have been, yeah. We've been dealing with this company since last June. My colleague Mike Wheeler, he has a list of emails and text messages that could break records. There's that many. This company doesn't know the meaning of the word solution, but they're very good at giving you the meaning of the word excuse.
And it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that we have to buy all the machines.
That, Mayor,
Been told.
Mayor, good question.
Not compatible with anybody else. The machines are how much a piece? Last I knew was 9,500, I think that's.
This is Flowbird, right?
Flowbird, yeah.
No,
I don't know. the answer.
Flowbird is the mobile app. It is ATI. It is not Flowbird.
Yeah, ATI is the company that manages them and services them. They're out of the Capital District.
I do believe though that because I've asked that question and our machine would not be compatible with anybody else. So we're now buying new machines, which Jackie, do you know what they cost?
They were quite expensive. I think $145,000 a piece.
Yeah.
Okay.
Years ago, and I'm going, I mean, at some point, if
Yeah.
things can't be resolved.
Yeah, so for example, last November and December, the meters were down 90% of the time.
As we all know, also part of the problem was when they put it. On the Catholic Church, that blocked the intent to Main Street.
That's what I was told by the company as well.
Well, they finally figured that out.
But I don't have a whole lot of confidence in this company, so when they say things, I kind of take it with a grain of salt, to be perfectly honest with
We
you.
will continue to look into it.
Yeah.
At some point, there's a better solution out there.
Yeah, okay,
They,
all right.
they were down last weekend. I had a friend and
We also had a problem on Main Street where our power was down. It was not a cricket or something, but.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what happened. A box blew and it tripped the meters along a certain side.
Yeah. Yeah, so that wasn't an ATI issue, in all fairness to them, that wasn't their problem.
Well, trust me, as you know, it subsidizes our village taxpayers on parking revenues, keeps things fair on Main Street.
Sure,
It's something we'll definitely be looking into.
okay, all right, thanks, appreciate it.
Thank you. Anything you'd like to add? Or have a question?
I've got a few questions, but does the media want to go first?
She may want
I
to.
think I've got plenty to chew on. As far as the media agenda stuff, I think good.
Okay.
Straightforward.
What else? I got a few things. A lot of it's just some housekeeping stuff that I've said previously. I'm just trying to get some resolution to some things. But the first thing I want to talk about is that we used to put the village workshop meetings online.
That's my knowledge.
Online? Like,
Yeah, on YouTube, yeah. Like,
no, we've never
Yeah.
done that.
we're on YouTube now, so. Workshop.
Village workshops?
No, they are not. You can send me a link.
Well,
They have
Never-
never been online,
Not the workshops.
not the workshops.
I used to watch them, so. Are we gonna put them online?
You're more than welcome to come.
And well, they're at what, 3 o'clock or something?
Six thirty, not 4:30.
4:30.
As you know, I travel quite a bit for work.
Possibly, Mr. Hughes is referring to during COVID, we were required to allow people to dial in, but now that town hall is open, anybody wants to can come attend in person.
Now, it appears though that the town does it differently. For all the meetings online, I believe, so.
I don't know.
So, I'm saying it should be, it should be something that should be available.
We'll look into it, but like I say, they're all open to the public.
Because we did it clearly during COVID, we did it before, but obviously open to the public and people that are, if I'm in Tennessee or Albuquerque, it's easier. If I want to make something up. Next thing I want to talk about is we have a law it's local law 3-2022. Now that's the speed that came up and I support this law because I live on Mirror Lake. And it's about the regulating the speed on Mirror Lake, and it's a 5-mile-an-hour speed. Well, if anybody understands nautical and the little boats that are gonna be out there, there's no way to regulate that speed. You can't regulate that speed. Most of these vessels out there are not gonna have a speedometer, so they can't regulate their speed as well. It can't be enforced because there's no way to enforce a 5-mile-an-hour speed limit on the lake. You can't do it visually because you don't have any reference points within the water and you can't tell exactly what's going on. What I would like to suggest is that, and plus the visual estimations of speed on water do not hold up in court. So you can't say, I'm going to give you a ticket. And if you're having a 5-mile-an-hour speed limit, you can't do anything with that in court. So you can't really write a ticket. So what I would suggest within the boating community within Walnut Lake, I would suggest that what we do is we modify that law and make Mirror Lake and the pond no wake water spaces, no wake lake, no wake in the pond. And no wake, you're familiar, no wake, you boaters are no, you know, what a wake is, you can't roll a wake out, right? Well, obviously, Ms. Brennan, you smiling, you don't know what a wake is, or you do know what a wake is? Okay, very good. So I'm not trying to oversimplify things. I'm trying to make sure that I'm,
No, I'm just nodding. Thanks.
okay, all right, thank you.
And when you're saying the pond, are you talking?
Yeah, it's the pond is part of that law, you know, the mill pond is part of that law.
Just what I want.
Yeah, so I think it's a good solution. That way it's enforceable because it's visual enforcement, and if a law enforcement, if looking at it, they can snap a picture of it and someone violating this law. I have grandkids that go on the lake at our house. I've got nieces and nephews that are younger that go out into the lake. And I think it's a very good thing to control the speed out there.
Be happy to look into it. I know in the past we've regulated by keeping all vessels that could go a certain speed off of there, like some
Yeah, yeah.
wakeboards and what have you.
Yep, and that's part of that law, but I think that
Are you finding there's problems now?
I don't see that there's problems now, but I think that it's, if you're gonna have a law, you gotta make it enforceable. You can't enforce it with a 5-mile. You can't, there's no way that you can document.
There's no motors, so I guess they're electric boats.
Well, I've got a John boat, and I've got an electric motor for that. And so, and a lot of people are out there with electric motors. So they're out there with electric motors and they could, you know, go 15, 20, 30 miles an hour on some of these, you know, some of these electric motors today are quite robust. So
Like, I'd be happy to look into
yeah,
that.
I think it would be a good solution to give something enforceable for that. And what about, we give variances to people to use the lake for different activities that go out there with powered boats. And is there going to be any thought about long-term using a boat only that has an electric motor? Electric motors are very, very common now for boating. So anything that's out there, so as opposed to using a gas powered motor.
I don't believe we have had any problems. I mean, we have had
We do require that the,
Four-stroke.
and whatever they are,
Yeah.
yeah, that it has to be, what,
And-
is it four-stroke?
I believe it's four-stroke, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not a two-cycle motor that's out there that,
And that it has to be, cleaned so that there's no transfer of
Yep.
an
And we've
invasive.
also had Brandon Wiltsey, do the lake quality testing. We've had no problems. I mean,
And really, it's only,
well, you could have a situation, but it would, everyone's moving towards that now anyway, and we want to preserve, that's, in my opinion, that's the most vital resource that we have within the village, because we try to manage the salt there, we try to manage the speed there. A lot of people use that lake, so whatever we can do to improve that would be great. So those
can look into it.
two things. Next thing, I wrote everybody about the pond hockey agreement. What I noticed with that, when I read through the pond hockey agreement, it was very, very boilerplate. And again, I support the Can-Am pond hockey. It's right outside of our window, and great to have it. Supported 100%. This year they did a lot of moving of snow that was problematic for the rest of the community to walk through there. I've reported back to you all. I think I sent a couple of video clips. I think I sent them to you, but definitely to Chuck. People had a lot of difficulty after they were out there. So I think that we need to do, somebody needs to address that when we do the next contract expires this year. So the new contract, we should make sure that there's a map and where these people are going to set this stuff up. Make sure that they keep that north-south corridor open on the west side of the lake, because that is highly used. Well, I mean, Mark, you can look out your window, you see that it's highly used. We're there, I see people walking up and down there all winter long, and everybody enjoys it. I think that we have to make sure that they are doing that. I talked to Chuck about it. He didn't even know that we had an agreement. So obviously he should be able to be here to enforce it. And somebody needs to work with these folks and make sure that, hey, these are the rules that we need you to follow. And again, they've been good stewards of the lake for years. This year was a little problematic. So I think we need to work on that to improve that. As well, I talked to you, Mr. Mayor, about and I said something to the board this winter about our driveway being blocked again. It's gotten, as I told you when we were down at the lake house here, that summertime it's gotten vastly improved with people blocking our driveway. But this winter we had in a couple instances where our driveway was blocked. My neighbor down the way, I mentioned his name in my email to you, that he was blocked in and was sitting at his place one night and he couldn't get out there. He had to sit there for an hour and a half for someone to pick him up. But when I called the police department for a call for service, Officer Valentine came down and her interpretation was that we need to write 3 tickets.
Yeah, I understand that was incorrect.
Okay, so I didn't hear that back, so.
So yes, so let's get it, say that was not, which was fixed, and the problem was fixed before she got there. But the thing is, if they're impeding your exit, it can be shown.
Yeah, they were actually impeding you.
Right.
And
So yeah, in ingress or egress, yes, so then they can be right away.
Yep.
So
And we have talked about putting signs up. And we've also talked about, we could put flower pots there, but I'm understanding you didn't want them there.
well, I don't care about the flower, it's public space, you can do what you want. Flower pots.
Well, I think what we tried to put in there before, you said it blocked your
The
view.
question that I had is what you were putting in there. That's why, because at first, when the plan was going in, at first it was gonna be trees. And there were gonna be larger trees, and I asked, well, in time, what's gonna happen? Are these things just gonna grow when we
This flower pots would be an easy fix.
yeah, if it's something smaller, when doing something like that.
Like I say, we're looking into that now. So the signs are, I believe the signs are already ordered.
Over there?
That's my understanding. I think within the next month, a lot of signs are gonna be going.
Yeah, just because New York State law and Article 32 under the traffic law, section 1202 2A prohibits the parking or standing in front of driveways with the vehicle, and that is a towable event. So that's towable, much like if someone were to occupy a handicap space, that's towable. So I would just like to make
The
sure.
officer was just incorrect.
Yeah, and she's
Now you
new.
understand.
She's new. She's only been with the force for a year. It's understandable. That's why I wrote to Chuck as well on it. And I actually gave her compliments in the past and some other things that she had helped me out with. And I think that it's a mistake, not the end of the world. While I was looking through some of the laws and I experienced this with some of the panhandling that goes on. And I think it's very, people could agree with it, people could disagree with it, but it's not really agreeing or disagreeing. I ran into a situation, I think I explained it to the board, that Officer Herzog came up and he was kind of giving, and a couple of times this has happened, he was giving this one guy that is stayed out in front of my place, and he was given a bit of a hard time about it, and then he was telling him that, you know, there's an ordinance against panhandling. Now, I've talked to this gentleman a couple of times, and he seems nice enough, he seems very calm. But that's untrue. And when he told that to this gentleman, I made a comment to Officer Herzog that that's not true. You can't have an ordinance against panhandling. And that there's
I haven't heard anything to the effect that anyone said they couldn't. I do agree with you.
Yeah, there's case law, and
Haven't anyone say no?
And so just, I think that it should be brought, well, I'm bringing it to your attention, I wrote an email about it previously. I think that we should make it that the police know
I'll
about.
say you wrote an email to
You. So, and I'll just go back and look at it. It's been quite a while. When I noticed it, it's been a couple of times. So
Chuck's very aware of the law, so.
yeah, so it's been a couple of times that this gentleman have been approached by the police. And again, some people think it's unsavory to have those folks there, but it's their right. You know, I'm ambivalent about it. You know, I'm more about people. I'm more about people preserving the rights. Is that me? I think so. I'm more about people preserving the rights as opposed to not.
Yeah, the only time that I am under the impression in Lake Park, I haven't done anything about someone standing and when, if they become a menace to the public.
That becomes the aggressive.
To my knowledge, that's the way we can handle here.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, all right, so I just know, I experienced it, and actually I've got video of it.
Okay.
So, and I just want people to be correct in what they're telling these folks. Obviously, it could be a big problem for the village if the wrong person, you know, it's in a bad situation with that, that's not good for the village. I want you to address that. Maybe Officer Herzog, I don't know if he's retired now, is he still with us on a part-time basis? I thought he was still with us for a part-time basis.
Unfortunately, New York state laws made it very difficult for people to work part-time.
Oh, really? That's unfortunate.
Agree.
The other thing, I made a couple of FOIL requests based upon the FISU games. Or no, let me get to the. No, let me get to this first. The Main Street upgrade project. I mean, I documented a FOIL request a couple of different times on that, and then I was presented with this attorney, Megan Doherty, I believe it is. So, and she had contacted me, and she was trying to fulfill this FOIA request, I guess, on the village's behalf. Well, I was never notified, as I told you previously in an email, that, you know, just some random person contacted me. Now, we've paid her $10,000, over $10,000 to handle this FOIL request. And I have not gotten complete records. We've reviewed the records. We've looked at the records. They only document 3 meetings in this whole project. So there's a lot of missing records. I as well asked for a Procore sheet, which is the software they were using. All they need to do is give me a username and access, read only, not write. And I said, when I asked for this, not to include any of the employee records, you know, because I'm not entitled to that. And when we went through that process, so I didn't get the records. I don't have a complete set of records. As you know, I'm in the commercial construction business. I know exactly what is supposed to be in there, and it's not. And a lot of it is missing. So when we paid this person, she came here, she came online, she listened to a meeting online, I guess on Miss Estling's behalf. And she was here, so I don't know what that was for, but I guess at the end of that meeting, on that public meeting, there was a comment made that, well, no drama occurred tonight. It was actually, I marked it down. It says, we were drama-free tonight. I guess drama, what is drama? Are my rights for FOIL? Is that drama?
I have no
I
idea.
guess I'll address that to Anita. Is it drama. I mean,
I don't know.
you've made
I
derogatory
believe I
comments to
said
me in the
that.
past. Well, it's online, so you can't
I
video
said
this.
that,
online.
that there was no drama?
Yeah. Yeah, Janet, I guess doesn't want you to comment. on that.
No, I just didn't want her to get upset.
But she's not upset. I'm not upset.
I don't remember ever commenting that. If you send me the link to the date, I will check it out.
Do one better.
And as far as Megan Doherty goes, she is a municipal attorney, a specialist, and that's the reason she is hired to get you what you need.
Well, it was very
What
simple.
you legally are entitled to.
It was very simple of what I needed.
Yes, well, but legally what you're entitled to.
Yeah. Yeah. I ran through my hearing aids.
But it sounds like the solution to that is send us what you think you don't have, and we'll get you answers legally on what you are entitled to.
Actually, we're gonna do it a different way.
Everyone, I am still here. Anita had mentioned maybe it was good for me to just listen in
Where is this
tonight,
from, or what is
so
it from the context of?
I do believe that, yes, I'd be there.
We don't.
But we were drama free tonight.
Is it safe to say that everyone in the room is on the screen?
I'm not smiling. Yes, I think it's a violation of my rights, Art, like I've said before.
What does this have to do with your right?
Yeah, like I said, this isn't for anything, or make a complaint formally and we'll do it.
Made those before and they go nowhere.
Well, we'll do our best. That's all we all do here. Yeah, raise your eyelads, make it look like we're really a bunch of idiots. That's fine. Go ahead. Make it look-
Fuck you.
Okay.
All right, let's.
So address you that way, if you want to be addressed, I'll address you that way if you want to make those kind of.
Any derogatory remarks, I just said, we do the best we can here.
Well, your
And
best.
Then you're looking like we don't.
Well,
That's your opinion.
when you're employed, when you're sitting right next to your employee and she's making comments like that, I think that's disrespectful. She wouldn't do it if I were in the room.
Everybody's human.
And
And I'll leave it at
I,
that.
I'm not sure what context your recording is in, whether it's in
It's your
context.
recording that you all posted.
Okay, whether it's, you're taking it that it was somehow aimed at you.
You hired her for me, right?
No, but
What else was she hired for?
But the comment that you heard about drama, there's no, I don't know the context in which that was said. You
Why was she invited to attend the meeting?
you apparently think it was taken again with some regard to you. I'm not, we don't know what that was said in regard to. I don't know that it's true that we paid her $10,000 to come to
I
this
FOIA
meeting.
requested it. And I've got the documents. So what did she do for the $10,000? But that's up to you. You have to come to that.
We have had to hire a specialist, and that's what we've done.
I think
It'll be
that
something
that
you-
fee may be over the course of time, not for one meeting.
Absolutely.
Well, not for one meeting. I didn't say it was for one.
Oh, I
I
said
said that we
misunderstood.
hired her for different things. So, all right. The other thing that I want to address, and we'll call it good, is the police body cams, the policies, okay? What we've noticed is I've FOIA requested a number of these body cams footages that we have, and there's a lot of discrepancy within the body cam footage. Some of them are complete, some of them, when the officer gets out of the car, and when they get out of the car, they'll have the body cam before they even get out of the car. They'll go there and they'll write the tickets. They'll do what they need to do. Other times they don't. Other times, depending upon the situation, there's a lot of inconsistency with these body cams. Who are the commissioners for the police? Mark, is that you or who?
I'm electric and
Electric, well, whoever the commissioners are, do you all review these body cameras at all? Or no?
Of course not. I mean, we rely on our chief of police to help us out there and our laws through NICOM.
Well, NICOM's not the state, so.
It's an organization that helps us out with the laws ours.
Are you alleging that the policy is not being followed?
Yes.
Just want to understand.
Seeing that the policy is not being followed, that there's inconsistencies within the policy, I think that the policy needs to be updated. I was upstairs, the police were called upon me for no cause or basis. 4 of them showed up. I asked for the records for that, the body cam records for that, and none of them existed. 4 officers show up, no body cams for that. Why not?
The body cameras are not always turned on.
They should, that's what I'm saying. They should be called on for the call of service. If they get a call of service, they should be turned on.
You can look into
You
that.
have an objective record. The other thing, when this fella, Dan Erie County, showed up last year doing some walking around, he was like, I guess they call him a First Amendment auditor or something like that. When he showed up, Officer Strack was there and he didn't really de-escalate the situation, or I guess Assistant Chief Strack, he didn't de-escalate the situation whatsoever. And the village employees wound up closing the whole gate that they have, the roll-up gate, during the middle of the day while this gentleman was there holding the camera. But more so when Officer or Assistant Chief Strack went into the office and was talking with the people in the office, he made derogatory comments that were caught on camera of this man. He said that he was probably just unemployed and he didn't work and he's just out here causing trouble. And then he mutes his camera for a long time. And I've got that footage. I requested that. So he muted that camera for a long time. Why?
Have you looked into it?
Okay.
I mean, I think the First Amendment audit taught us all a lot. We got a great deal of information out of it. And we move forward.
Well, the man with the camera, he wasn't causing any trouble, so. At least from what I saw off of Officer Strack's
I get you. It's,
footage.
I get it.
I apologize for seeing it.
That's what I get paid for.
Yeah, I just get a lot of the same type of answers every time they have legitimate complaints. And I think that we need to have an objective record of these body cameras because they're an objective record for all sides to keep police accountable
Look into it.
and to keep the whoever's being spoken to by the police, whether they're being arrested or whatever's going on, written a ticket, whatever's happening. They need to have an objective record.
For policy, yes.
Yes, well, the policy should be updated.
Video.
All right, could you get back to me on it? Can you do that?
Um,
You can send me an email.
I'll be happy to look into it. I'll let you know what I find it, but I can't guarantee how long it's gonna take. Anything else?
Nope, that's it. That's all I wanted to address tonight.
Grace, that circles us back to you. Okay. Okay.
We just want to thank you guys for hearing us out.
We appreciate you coming. It's a tough situation for everybody and maybe you brought us a solution. We'll have to see what we can do.
And I have a quick question for you. How many times during the day do you have to say to somebody, I hear what you're saying?
Not as much as you think, a lot of people ask me that question, but, I think a lot of people realize we don't get $1,000 to do these jobs. It's volunteer. You're very, very lucky to have the people we've had that step forward. I think I have a great board. We have a lot of different opinions. We have a lot of angles people look at things
I
from.
think there's a lot of creativity to try and help people. We learned that tonight. Speaking to all of you.
As you can see, I mean, 15,000 a year, we just read that. I mean, there's weeks that I put in a lot of hours. You do it to give back. That's what you do. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Oh, yeah, okay, so before we close out tonight, we will be going into an executive session
Litigation.
for litigation.
Make a motion to go to executive session
All in favor?
for litigation.
Aye.
Good night.
Good night.
I apologize, Art. Okay.